that's like the one piece of advice when people ask me like, what's like the biggest advice you have is, and for me, it was like, just like meet them where they are and accept them for how they are. And don't try to change them because like, it's just like you, like, just like us, like we're doing our best, like he's doing our best. And like, they need guidance and they need some consistency in some areas, but for the most part, like they're doing their best. So, you know, I'm sure they're pissed that they can't fall asleep too. So, or like, you know, if they're struggling, like, it's not like they want to be awake if they're tired, you know? So, yeah, it's just like enjoy things more. I was able to enjoy things more whenever I stopped trying to like square peg round hole type of thing.
I mean, you guys are talking about forced practice of potentially the most important lesson in life, that like life is chaotic. Control is an illusion. It's not a thing that you can have. And the more you try to jam that square peg into the round hole and control things that you cannot, life is like, that's funny. Good morning, Misfits. You were tuning into another episode of the Misfit Podcast. Drew and Sherb on the mics. Ted making sure that we sound creamy. Your boy Hunter Wood, the Pebble, is in Nicaragua surfing right now. He brought 3 surfboards with him.
And no friends.
That's just the way Hunter likes it.
Exactly.
His 3 favorite friends traveled with him. And he was very excited for everyone to know that he put pipe insulation on the rails of his surfboard so that they didn't crack. The way he was trying to explain pipe insulation to Ted was amazing. It was like, I think Ted knows what that is. I think we're good. And if you're watching on YouTube or if you're listening and are about to hear me talk, you probably noticed that we have a special guest, Mekenzie Riley, also known as Kenzie. Kenzie, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm great.
It's good to see you.
I know. It really is, though. It's been a while.
It's been too long.
Yeah, you can do one of those road trips up this way.
Yeah, right?
So you get out there a little bit on the road, so maybe...
I'm actually surprised she's home right now.
True.
So... inside joke. All right. So this is a super, super important week because Hunter is not here and I might win the grip contest. And that counts as a W. Like if you're not going to fucking show up on game day, then I win.
I have one first place loser.
Yeah, but so Shirt beat me once. So Kenzie, feel free to live comment on this, but Sherb is about to take his grip test.
I'm really tired.
I'm glad Kenzie doesn't have one of these. I did
some rope climbs and some farmer's carries.
Oh, here he is. Here he is with the excuses.
Oh, I broke it. See, it's such 1,000.
9,000? Wow, it's amazing.
All right, here we go.
Don't put it in kilos.
Start, man. All right, start.
Saw you boiling water in Celsius earlier.
145.
145?
Pedestrian at best.
Yeah, that's pretty bad.
It's pretty pedestrian.
I have been lower, though.
My elbow hurts.
156. Ted, We Are the Champions podcast is over. Kenzie, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you to our show sponsor. Just kidding. All right. Now I'm feeling really good.
Where did this originate? I'm sorry.
There was
I didn't follow the beginning.
There was a study. So we've been doing this for weeks, and Hunter comes in first. I come in second. Or if Cody shows up, he crushes everybody. So there was a study done where they were able to lower patients' blood pressure by having them hold this at like 50 to 60% of max grip for 2 minutes for like 2 rounds, like twice a week or something like that. And it was like sort of a big intervention because a lot of times if someone has high blood pressure, getting them to do the normal things that you would do is a little bit challenging. So they send them these bad boys in the blood pressure cuff, and then you do that. And I was going to keep this at home and run the experiment, and then I brought it in for fun, and it hasn't left yet. So I have yet to...
How sad are people when they think they're going to get a Camry in the mail, and that's what shows up?
Yeah, it is called the Camry. At some point, we will start scheduling our guests further in the future than we probably called you 5 or 6 minutes ago. And we're going to mail these out to people so they can join the contest.
Shame me.
Yeah. So they can shame Sure, really. Yeah, I mean, that's the
mail
goal.
Them out?
Maybe.
Don't get me excited like
Maybe. Okay. So podcast.
Yeah.
Are we coming up on the 1-year birthday party for the little homie?
Yeah, that's this weekend. Very busy next few days. I got a 1-year-old birthday party on Saturday.
What do you do at a 1-year-old birthday party?
That's the thing is, I know, Roy, we were talking about it, and Roy had the same question. He's like, is there like games? Like, do we play games or one?
Is
I'm
he
like,
aware
no,
that he's having a
what they
birthday
do.
party?
No, honestly, it's just like mostly us getting our friends together, and our friends have kids, so they just bring the kids and
Like a lot of
babies.
smiling and clapping?
Honestly, it's a lot of, when it's my child playing, it's a lot of him grabbing other kids' faces and making them cry.
Just like
There's
pushing
a lot
them
of,
into the ground.
he's just like, I want to know what that feels like. And he just like grabs it.
Just pluck your eyeball out of your head real quick.
Nice.
He makes his little friends cry often. And then he like looks at me like, what?
What's the
Why?
problem?
Well, I mean, when is he going to be able to get into a wrestling class? Right?
Yeah, well, actually, I just took him to a little gymnastic gym. It's mostly just a whole bunch of padded shit that they just run around and play on. And somebody was like, he looks like a little bodybuilder. And I was like, I'll take that, I guess.
Thank
It's
you.
because he's a little meatball. Just say it. He's a little meatball.
He's, I don't throw this around. He is insanely cute.
Oh,
That dude's head is so cute.
He's a beefy little cutie. But yeah, he's going to be 1, which is insane.
What's the theme for the birthday party?
What?
Do you have a theme already planned for the birthday party?
Yeah.
Is it like a friend's birthday party?
Harry Potter.
Yeah. So like in a nutshell, I'm very sentimental about the whole Peanuts Snoopy shebang. So his whole his like room is done in like Peanuts theme. And that was like my baby shower theme, but then I didn't get to have it because of COVID. So I just kept everything. I'm just going to roll it into the first birthday. So we're just going like a solid year of.
I could have shown up as Linus.
Snoopy.
I'm kind of upset.
Yeah.
Sure, could have been Tweety Bird or
Why?
whoever that guy is.
Do you have a blanket? Do you carry a blanket?
I used to, yes. I used to carry a blanket, and my parents told me that something happened to it. And then when I was in high school, I found it in a shoebox in the closet, and I was pretty upset.
It went to the farm. It went to live on a farm somewhere.
Do you have a dog too? That's funny.
My dog actually did go to live on a farm in real life, and the farmer killed him. I know this is probably...
This is a real downer to this podcast. I don't think I'm going to leave now.
He ate the guy's rabbits, and the guy shot him. I'm sorry.
What kind of dog is this? Sure have a
Hunting
wolf.
It's a hunting dog.
I had a wolf.
It's only funny because it's uncomfortable. Okay. So I think that's a segue too. You've had quite a journey in the last year. And we'll get to sort of maybe the second half or even the last 25%. But I think it's really important for someone like you to talk about your postpartum journey. And you can keep it fitness related. You can talk about it from like a holistic health perspective. But I think when, when you come out of that and you really work towards getting yourself to a place, where you're happy mentally and healthy and all that, like that's super important. And you've set a really good example for this. So just, how it's been, what's happened, any anecdotes you want to share, anything like that.
Oh man, it's crazy. It's been quite a year. Honestly, it's a paradox, sure, but I don't know if you have had this experience, but it's like the days can be like the longest days of your life, but the weeks and the months and this past year, it's like, I can't believe it's gone so fast. So slow days that seem to never end, that drag forever. And then just like, holy shit, he's another month older. It's crazy. Time is super crazy right now. I don't get it.
I would say you're completely right with that. I was actually talking to my wife on Mother's Day, and I was just like, I was getting ready to get you your gift, which was just like, old fashioned photos from like Walgreens and whatnot. And I was like, man, this isn't that long ago, but it feels like forever ago. And I remember being up at like 1:30 or 2 in the morning, feeding him. I'm like, this is my life now. It's never going to end. I'll never get through this. And then I look now and I'm like, that was back in like December, like 4 months ago. It doesn't even look like the same baby. So like completely agree. Like, how does time go fast and slow simultaneously? But I couldn't agree more.
It's wild. It's super wild. Roy's like, he doesn't even look like that anymore. Like, he's like, when did he change? It's just things change right before your eyes and you don't even like notice it. It's crazy.
Yeah, like with some mornings he gets up and we're like, did he grow like another 2 inches last night? He looks huge. And I like
Exactly.
day to day.
My child is 26 pounds.
I'm about to find out today. He's his 8-month appointment is this afternoon. So I'm going to figure out how beefy he is today.
Sure was 26 pounds
let
when
me
he was
know.
born.
Yeah.
Please let me know. So yeah, it's wild because I've tried so hard to be like present, and everybody's like, take it in, enjoy it. It goes so fast. And so I've tried to really keep that perspective and just keeping with everything else that I have going on. Obviously, I never really stopped working like with all my nutrition clients, and obviously remote clients. And then just with training and wanting to like still like do fitness to some degree. Like those are priorities in my life that I can't, like, jobs are jobs, but they're all have been priorities. And now it's really weird because I have this other priority that's like above all the rest of them. And so I try my best to like remember, like, even when I want to just be able to do all the things that I know I need to do, I'm just like, this is a season where like, this isn't going to be like this, but it's super hard. And you're just like, but I have to get this done, but I have to do this. But just remembering like, it is, even though the day seems like forever, like you said, like feeding them at 1 a.m. where you're just like, I just want to freaking sleep. It's also like, it's going to be gone so fast, but you're still going to be pissed in the moment.
Well, it's for me too. Like when you wake up in the morning and you normally would get up, you maybe answer emails or check, Instagram or whatever you do in the morning. For me now, it's like, all right, before I would just sit down on my computer, cup of coffee, read my emails, read my newsletters, whatever comes in my inbox. And now it's like, no, I got to put that on hold for a minute because I want to spend time with him. He's just woken up, and I don't know if you have the same experience, but like Zion's in his best mood first thing in the morning. He's having the best time. And as the day goes on, he gets a little bit more upset as it goes, as he gets tired and, probably just a lot of inputs for someone that small. So first thing in the morning, like I want to capitalize on that, great time.
Yeah. And I mean, some mornings you wake up, it's just one of those things where you're completely out of control, which is another thing that I've learned in the last year. I'm like so not in control, and it's been a really hard lesson for me to learn. But it's been really, I think, good for me in some senses, right? The concept of schedules and like all the books and all the things you read and see and do, all your friends do, and you like try and follow it. Like I tried so hard to like do it this way, and I wanted this like out. Like, if I do this, then it'll do this, and it'll do this, and it's like didn't ever work that way. So I just stopped caring. And it got so much more enjoyable.
Yeah, I think there's that level of control you're talking about that you sort of lose, but it allows you to kind of, again, refocus on what actually matters, because those things can definitely stress you out. But when you're able to go, all right, like, he wants to eat right now, and this is kind of what I'm going to do. And then when he goes down, I can try to get back to what I'm used to. It's a good, life lesson to know that like being on your toes is something we want from an athlete, but it also is put into your daily life with your child.
It's true. It is like, I've always said CrossFit is just like, it's like a metaphor for life. It's all just like super applicable. So remaining just like able to adapt has been something that I'm literally was like, I do this all the time. And like, I'm really good at doing this in other scenarios. Like I just need like, just apply it, Kenzie. So instead of being like, why won't you sleep right now? You're just like,
I might have said that too.
You don't want to sleep now? Fucking fine. We're just not going to sleep right now. And we're just going to do what you want to do. But it just makes you be like, whatever, if he's happy and he's awake, then I'm just going to enjoy him instead of like wondering why he can't be different and do what I want him to do. I'm just going to like accept him and enjoy him. And it's like so much more easier to like find joy instead of trying to control it and be pissed that it's not going the way you want it. Just be like, as long as everybody's happy and he's healthy and he's safe, then like really probably doesn't matter. So just
definitely
enjoy it.
Helps wasting you time on what matters most. It really does help quite a bit. You're looking at right this, and I completely agree with you. Sometimes I'm like, man, it'd be nice to go to sleep right now so I can get up and have like a normal work day tomorrow. But like, pivot a little bit. We spend a little time. I know I'm building a bond with my child, and you probably feel the exact same way. You're building that bond, and he will eventually get to a more customary schedule. But they're figuring shit out the way we are all figuring it out. And it's funny that even at like sub 1 years old and now 33 years old, those things kind of exist in both parts of your life, and they'll continue to exist for the rest of your life. So having the ability to adapt on the fly and like kind of go with the flow helps a lot, both like in training and in life, and with, playing around with your, small son.
Yeah.
So you guys are explaining like, yeah, it happens in the gym, but you can walk away at any point. You guys are talking about something where not only is this like a living thing, and, like when you forgot to water your gigapet or whatever, that's an issue, but like there's also the evolutionary stuff baked into you where like you do care more. It is, it is so deeply ingrained in you. So you are forced to practice. I'm throwing hand gestures around, hitting the mic. You're forced to practice something that a lot of people don't get practice with. Like you cannot control everything. It's not possible. So to try is counterintuitive.
And I probably have the same experience, Kenzie, but it's just like, it's sort of like Drew was saying, kind of baked into you. Like you do get up at 1 a.m. and you're like, God, I really prefer to be sleeping. But like, there's like this energy or this force that goes through your body. And you're like, this is just what's going to happen. And, I'll get used to this. And while there were a lot of sleepless nights and nights where like you didn't feel that great going to work the next day, like there's just that like weird innate thing inside of you that's like, I'm going to figure this out and make it happen.
It's super weird because I asked a lot of people, like, back when I was just living the fitness life, and I'd hear about, these stories about people with kids. I'm just like, oh my gosh, how do you function on that much sleep? Or like, I was just so worried about not knowing how to function without more sleep. Like, cause I slept like 9-10 hours when I was full-time training. Like I love sleep. I'm a sleeper. So whenever people tell me that they only got 5 or 6 hours sleep, or they're up, all night with their kid, I'm just like, how are you functioning? And then they're like, you just do it. And I completely understand what they mean now. I'm just like, I'm doing shit that I would never choose to do, but it's just like, that's how you just got to do it. And you do, and you're fine. And you realize, actually, I'm fine. If I was wearing a Whoop, would it be in the fucking red? Probably, but that's not important because we're alive. And look at my kid, like, it's just really weird. I never thought I would be able to be in that place. And like you said, it's just, I guess that's what instincts are, mother's instincts and all that shit that you hear about. It's real. Like you do anything for your kids. So
I still don't know how Noelle functions to this day after how little sleep she got, because that was the one thing. Like I'm a pretty hard sleeper. So I'm like, you got to make sure that if he's up and you need a break, like you'd like, let me know, because I will not hear him crying.
Pots
like,
and pans.
Yeah. You're like, smack me, like punch me in the head a few times, wake me up. So like, when she, for the most part, did, I would say probably 75% of that work, because she's like, oh, he's sleeping. And I'm like, no, like you can ask me to come help you. Like, it's not all you, but like, you just somehow have this like infinite energy bank that like, I could tell she was crawling through her day because how tired she was, but was able to just kind of putting one foot in front of the other. And I think that, kind of like you said, a like life lesson in a little microcosm here, like if you can put that same like idea of like, I'm just going to keep figuring it out, that applies to something like training a ton.
Yeah, there's been so many little hurdles. So within this first year, I mean, yeah, your first, like, first of all, bringing a baby home, you're like, Roy's like, what do we do? Does he just like lay here? Are we supposed to like do something with him? Like, we didn't really know, like, what do you do with a tiny baby?
It's really weird.
Yeah. So it's like,
I've heard you have to hold their head because it'll tip over.
Oh yeah. I mean, and knowing, this is another thing I've learned in my first year is like, we had no idea, like the developmental, like stages. Like Roy will tell you till this day, he's like, I thought they were like babies. Like I thought I would still be like holding a swaddled baby with like a bottle. Like, no, he's like fully like stands up, walks, like can sustain himself. Like I thought he would need much more like support for longer, but they just like develop and change. And it's crazy. Like we didn't know, like he's way closer to like a tiny human, like than he is a baby blob. It's so weird in a year. So we've just learned more about the concept of like when they can do the next phase of things and when they grow and all that stuff. We were like, he's not using half of like the toys and the stuff. Like you get all the swings and the jumpers and the carriers and the this and that. He's like not even using any of that anymore. Like that shit is so like short-lived. It's wild.
It blew my mind when I thought like he would be, arriving on this planet, and like a week later he'd be like sitting up and like holding his own bottle. And I'm like, still this day, I hold his bottle when I feed him, and like he's barely able to sit by himself. So like I had almost the exact opposite interpretation. I'm like, oh, it's a baby. Like, someone said like, don't worry, they're not that fragile. But like, and then you hold them the first time, you're like, someone take this. Someone take it back, please. I don't feel like an adult, like, to take this back from me. But you do get used to that, that first little bit where he is, super fragile.
Oh yeah. But it's like, it's such a learning curve. I mean, no one knows anything about babies till you have one, right? So we just learned a lot about, so when you hear like parents have these conversations from the outside looking in, I used to be like, what are they even fucking talking about? They'll be like, this 18 months old doing this, doing that, like all this stuff. And I'd be like, but now it's like, those are the conversations I have. How old is he? How big is he? What percentile is he in? Like all this shit. I'm such a mom.
Gotta be 100.
So, but I understand what they mean now. Like if you would have told me that before I had a kid, I'd be like, I don't know. When are supposed to support their own head? When are they supposed to be able to do that?
When a person's hand stops growing by any chance?
Oh yeah. Right. I think
it's like 55.
That happens your whole life.
Okay. Thank you so much.
That is actually something we talked about. Roy and I have talked about like certain, I've heard that your ears grow your whole life. Is that true?
That is true.
Yeah, that's why you get the nose, chin, ear. It's a cartilage that keeps going.
Yeah,
so that's how you get the like witch vibe.
Okay, right on. Because that, I think Roy, we were talking about that. Anyways, I didn't know if I believed him, but yeah, so I've just learned a lot about babies. I learned a lot about patience and kind of like giving up that control, just being more, like I said, in the moment. And then I don't know, this is going to sound really bad, but you just realize like some shit just doesn't matter. Like things just.
That doesn't sound like
bad at all.
That sounds insightful.
But there are just some things where you're just like, why? Like,
especially in 2021. Like, let's be real. Let's be real about the things people potentially care about locked up in their living room doing nothing.
You're right.
Their phone.
You're right.
I kind of laughed when I saw one of your stories, Kenzie. You were like, I'm doing a 90% squat clean or something like that without a belt because, like, fuck, I had a baby and, like, I forgot it at home or it wasn't with me. But, like, look what actually matters. I'm still moving around and exercising, but I don't have my trusty belt. I thought it was like a really like a funny post, but like a lot of people do get hung up on things. Like I don't have the right tape for my thumbs, or I'm not wearing the right shoes on my feet. And you're just like, nah, you just go in there and you make do with what you know.
Really, truly. I mean, partly because my bandwidth is just not like, it's just limited. But there are just some things where I've always been even, before when all of my energy was going into training, but just in general, like I just don't give my fucks to things that are like, it just takes your energy. Like you have I don't know if anybody like or everybody like kind of has this thought process, but it's like, we have a finite amount of energy to give every day to where like, where you put that is completely up to you. And for me, I don't waste my energy on stuff that is just like just not worth it. Like I pick and choose where I put my energy. So I don't get caught up in just the bullshit, or I just can't get sucked into like my phone or like the media or like rumors and chatting and talking, like stuff that's just like, just draining your energy just by you being stimulated by it and like running circles in your brain, talking about stuff. I just can't do that. Or things are not in perfect situations, or adapting to, unideal circumstances. Like sometimes you just gotta be like, I don't fucking care. I don't care.
To me, that's just like a nod to like staying present with what's in front of you right now. Like why add additional distraction? Why get lost in a half hour of social media when there's better, uses of your time, when right now your free time is relegated to when Race is asleep for either overnight or during a nap. Like outside of that, you're basically on the other 12 hours of the day where he's not sleeping.
Well, and I tell you more so now, I have a tendency to just be hyper vigilant in general. Just like my awareness, and I now that I have a child that I have to consider, like, Is he okay? What does he need? Like 24/7. It's just another just like thing, like just another like out plug into like the outlet that I am of like my energy and my thoughts, to where, yeah, like I have to be aware of like, okay, like I need to, like I have this going on today, this going on today, this going on today. And then I'm going to also try and get this done and this done. And I have to be here at this time. And then it's like, when's nap time? When's this time? When's that time? We're leaving. Do we have the diaper bag? Do we have this? Do we have that? Like, you're just constantly being like, what's he going to need? Where are we going to be? What do I need to like get done? What I need to get done. So yeah, there's like a lot going on up here, more so than usual. And my brain is completely like more mush than it's ever been in its entire life. Like the mom brain thing is so real.
That's real.
It's so real. Like isn't it like biologically, physiologically, like you give them a part of your brain. Do you guys know this? Do you guys hear about this? It's a thing.
I mean, I haven't heard that specifically, but I believe it.
From a resources standpoint, it makes a whole lot of sense.
Like
you can't give that much to something and expect to walk away with the same amount of resources. It's not possible.
It's insane. I literally last year, was it for my birthday? It was for my birthday because Roy was like, took me to a coffee place we had never been. And so I was like, 3 months postpartum. And I don't know if we took Grace or if we had a babysitter. We must have taken him because I didn't use a babysitter for a while. So we got in the car, went to this coffee place. It was a drive-through, and came back home, and I went and sat outside and drank my coffee. And I looked down and I had 2 different shoes on, and I didn't know it until I went to the place.
I think Sherp's had mom brain for years.
Dude,
Sherp's got 2 shoes on right now.
Probably.
I put on a Birkenstock on one foot and like a slide on the other foot. And I literally had no idea till I sat down and I took a picture of it, and I still have it because I'm like, I've never had this happen. My brain is so wild right now. Like it's just complete mush. So that has been, like I said, it's like another layer of energy that it takes from me, that you just have to learn where to spend your energy, because it's even less, you have less to, kind of partition throughout the day. So yeah, when it comes to fitness, so the whole fitness journey, I went into pregnancy knowing I wasn't, like in my mind, I was like, I'm done. Like I'm done competing. I didn't go into it. I think like somebody like Cara or Annie who like knows they're going to come back and they're going to compete. And so they're going into it so they can come out of it and have this like ramp back up plan. That was never me. So I just trained through my whole pregnancy as much as like, it obviously became super modified. But I moved every day up until I even did an AMRAP in the hospital to try and get this kid out. It was like walking the halls, but it was like on a clock. I did some air squats and all this stuff just to like, it didn't work. It didn't matter.
Until birth.
What?
Instead of EMOM until failure, it's just EMOM until birth.
Born by.
Yeah, right.
By.
Like, or until they had to put an epidural in me because I couldn't feel my legs. You can't move with epidural, but I went up till that point for sure. Anyways, so I came out of pregnancy and out of childbirth, and honestly going through that physical experience, I was in no rush to ruin anything further than it had already been ruined, if you know what I'm saying. Tracking. So I was very cautious of like the healing process. In my mind, I'm like, there's no way I'm going to ever be able to squat again. Like in my brain, for those few days, you're just like, oh my God, ow. But yeah, sorry guys. You guys probably
no. I mean, Noelle went through something like this as well. So
that was part of like, I was in no rush because just thinking about that. No, thank you. And then just started out just very like, I eased back in like super, super easy because I had nowhere to go with it. Like, what's it matter if I do something sooner than not, other than the fact that the downside is it could jack me up. And then the upside is, I guess, like, oh, cool. I got back to doing, box jumps or something that I haven't done in a while sooner, but it's like, where am I in a race to like get this back into my life for? Like, there's no point. So I was on a very slow recovery journey. People ask me a lot, like, when did you start doing this? When did you start doing that? And I feel like up until I'd say like I didn't do anything till 3 weeks postpartum. I didn't do any intensity till probably like 3 months postpartum. A lot of it was just like, again, moving again. I was doing like empty barbell squats, like, we're talking like two months postpartum, 3 months postpartum. And I was still doing like very basic unloaded type of stuff. But slowly I would add, intensity came back. And then everything like core related, I saw my friend is a PT. She trains at the gym with me and she specializes in women's health and pelvic floor. So I saw her up until, I would say, last month I saw her. So for the whole first year, I saw her to check on everything, making sure it was healing properly. She cleared me for this, cleared me for that. But I was definitely in no rush. So yeah, I think I finally got everything back in earlier this year. I was really nervous about that too. Certain things that just like, just stretches the shit out of your core, like GHD. I was super scared to ever do one of those again. But actually the first time I did one,
that ab tape that we saw, you and I were talking back and forth about, I'd seen a couple of the recent CrossFit moms had like KT taped themselves together for the 60, 50, 40, 30 GHDs.
Yeah, that was freaking insane. I was super scared. I thought I was going to get rhabdo. We talked about that. But yeah, like I was really nervous. It's really surprising because some things you guys might find this interesting. So I was really nervous for like my core and how it would recover and certain things I thought would be like the worst that I could do for it. So GHD was like the furthest thing, like in my mind, that was going to be so bad for it. And the first day that she watched me do a GHD, she's like, actually, that looks pretty good. And then, but doing like a ab mat sit up or a V up, no, that was bad, which is completely opposite of what you would think, like scaling wise. So for some reason, I was keeping my core more intact, going all the way down to a GHD, but doing a V up or sit up, I was not as like engaged or something. So that she saw more issues with. So yeah, I didn't do a muscle up till November, December. I didn't do a GHD till, I don't know, January.
So like 7 to 9 months, you were starting to get some of those things back in. Now, before you really started to get back into intensity, like you said, you really didn't do much for the first 3 weeks. At that 3 week mark, is that when you started some of that like postpartum stuff, or did you start a little bit before that and kind of work your way back into, intensity, mixing in some of the like, I don't know how it's the classifies, but like birth fit type of stuff, postpartum exercises in addition to like what you do for your like, maybe cardio, for example.
Right. So like the first like week, 2 weeks, I did nothing until like I would go on walks. One day I walked like freaking 800 meters and it was like a crowning achievement. And then I think at 3 weeks I started doing it might have been in that second week, third week, I was doing like a lot of breathing stuff. And then there was a little bit of, like you said, like that birth fit recovery, where I worked with pregnant and postpartum athlete. And so that was more around like two weeks. And then around 3 weeks, I like got on the C2 bike, and just literally was just like moving. And from there it turned into more like I ended with bike and I started back with bike. So I started mostly with biking, and then I remember one day, this is a good one. Roy was gone. Race was napping and I put him right by the window. I would walk laps around the backyard, around the fence, or like around the edge of the fence. And then I had like 10-pound dumbbells and I do like a lap and then I do like some dumbbell presses, some curls, like whatever, like walk a lap. And I wore my swimsuit so I get a tan. I was like muscles. Triple tapping. Yeah. So I did a lot of stuff. I did a lot of like kind of like dumbbell strengthy type stuff. But then it got close, worked my way more up, starting, then I was able to like try and work on some squatting. Squatting was probably the thing I was most nervous about. And it took me a while to feel really like, I don't want to get into talking about that, but
secure maybe is the right adjective for that.
I mean, so this is actually interesting from the standpoint of when I can't squat anymore, really. But when I did, I was very much a like drop and bounce kind of athlete. So I really know from like a weird standpoint of not really feeling, and obviously one of the reasons why I'm injured, is not having that engagement in the places where you need it. So that was probably whereas you were approaching it from a more like the way you're actually supposed to squat, you then go back and try to squat in musculature that you had, ways that you were used to feeling were completely different.
Yeah, it's super crazy. It's so wild. Like in my mind, it'd be like, I haven't done this in this, like just coming back to things that you haven't done that you used to do literally like every day. It's super crazy. But yeah, I mean, honestly, like my mobility is trash. My overhead is still trash. Let me tell you what it's like holding a baby and breastfeeding for, a year.
Yourself up.
Keep your T-spine vertical, right?
My upper back is garbage. Oh my gosh. And it's like, I know it. And I, tell everybody you got to work on those things. But like, I'm that person now where I'm like, I don't have time. I can't. So now I just do a few warm-ups and I'm like, okay, cool. Well, hopefully this jerk works out when the clock starts, because I don't have time to warm up my jerk, but that did not feel okay. But yeah, overhead is tough. Squatting, I would say, so yeah, like it definitely, there is something to the mom strength thing. I don't know what it is or why. It's hormonal. I get it. But I'm all my lifts are like good, other than my overhead lifts. Talk about my jerk, but all my other lifts are like pretty fucking close to like my normal maxes. Barbell cycling is a little bit of a different story, but for the most part, like my strength is up there. But it's like really weird because there's a lot of stuff that I couldn't do. Like you can't squat at those high percentages for a while. You can't, lift. I mean, I didn't snatch for 9 months, it's super crazy. But it does come back. I remember our friends came over and they were doing they did a workout with Roy in the driveway. And I was like, I don't remember. I was either I was like right at the end of, or newly-ish postpartum. I wasn't lifting heavy yet, but I had moved her barbell out of the way and it was like 155 barbell. And I went to like move and I deadlifted it up and I was like, oh my God, I can't hardly lift this. I was like, I'm so fucked. I am never going to be able to lift heavy ever again. I was like, how did I ever pick this up over my head? I can't even deadlift it. But it does come back, which is, until you live through it, you believe it. But at first you're just like, there's no way. So that's a good feeling.
All right, Misfits, just a quick break to shout out our show sponsors and hopefully save you a little bit of dough. This episode of the podcast is brought to you by Proper Fuel. You can head to properfuel.co and use the code word Misfit to save on your very first jug of Proper Recovery. Proper Recovery is your complete post-workout nutrition solution. Everything that you need to recover after a workout is put into one jug. It mixes really well. It tastes really good. And one of those 7 ingredients is a digestive enzyme blend to make sure not only that everything that's in it goes to where it needs to go, but that you actually digest it if you do typically have issues with whey protein. It's super convenient. It tastes great. It's an excellent product. And you can save by going to properfuel.co and use the code word Misfit for your first order.
We are also brought to you by the world's best CBD, Pure Spectrum CBD. You can head to purespectrumcbd.com, use the code word Misfit to save on your order. If you're like me, you really like the tincture. For me, I've noticed that when I do take the tincture versus when I do not, I spend more of my time in REM sleep, and I notice that the next day I'm feeling a little bit more recharged, which really does help me feel better for the next day. So again, definitely check out their Black Label stuff, their salves, their tinctures. They're really great products. And again, you can head to Pure Spectrum CBD, use the code word Misfit to save on your order. We are also brought to you by Sharpen the Axe. You can head to sharpentheaxeco.com, use the code word Kiala to save 10% on your order, and have us donate 10% to the Kiala Foundation. Really great people out there in Hawaii who take care of some really awesome kids. So you should definitely check them out if you've never been on their site. It's a nice place to be. Some of the cool things coming up for Sharpen the Axe, we have the semifinals collection. We are only a few weeks out from being able to see live in-person CrossFit competitions again, which I'm super stoked about. And in addition, we are also dropping another colorway of the coach's pant, which I know people are dying to get their hands on. So again, you can head to sharpentheaxeco.com, use the code word Kiala to save 10% and donate 10%.
So you are tuning in to an episode with Kenzie Riley. Kenzie is a remote coach for Misfit Athletics. And she's talking about training only 60 to 90 minutes a day. That is still pulled from, I work with her as her coach, and that is still pulled from the MFT track. But whether you're on MFT, Hatchet, Teens, Masters, Anywhere, all that good stuff, or if you're an affiliate owner and you would like to follow the programming that myself, Sherb, and Hunter follow, that's teammisfit.com. You can head to misfitathletics.com, teammisfit.com, or the SugarWOD marketplace for all of our products. And almost every single one of them has a 2-week free trial built in. We believe in this product so much that we give it away for 2 weeks so that you can actually get a real sense of both how we program and how you feel on our program, and whether you think you're going to progress as you continue with that. So, again, misfitathletics.com, teammisfit.com for your affiliate programming needs, and the SugarWOD marketplace if that's how you like to do it. All right, back to the show. So I want you to put your coach's hat on for a second. Yeah. When you're talking about addressing the birth fit type stuff, the pelvic floor, going, to see your friend and get cleared for this stuff, do you have any advice in terms of like, these are the exercises I did, or here are the resources, go do like personal research, that sort of thing?
Yeah. So, I mean, I honestly, like, the whole time I was doing these exercises, I was like, I don't even know if I'm doing these right. So they're like it's foreign in a sense, because it's not like normal stuff. It's like, breathing, trying to like breathing and like different ways of breathing, bearing down versus, bracing, like understanding like the different ways to use like your deep core muscles, which, we have like our superficial muscles, and we have like the super deep muscles, and understanding the difference, and understanding like how different ways of like flexing versus bracing and all that stuff. So it really helped me to work with her in person, so she could like show me and like explain to me and get out her little like models and like show me stuff. So I personally benefited a lot more from seeing somebody, but it's hard to find people who specialize in that. But I would seek out somebody. I mean, my friend has started doing stuff remotely because there's such a lack for like that specific specialty in the field of physical therapy. So I would find somebody versus following an online program, because the thing is if you don't know what you're doing and you're doing it, you're not getting the benefit anyways. So, if you're following something and doing it wrong, then it's kind of like, what the point? But yeah, I mean, some of that's, it starts with the breathing, and then honestly has a lot to do with, keeping our core from being relaxed, and knowing how to like brace versus bear down, which also is part of childbirth. When they tell you to push, there's a difference between, this is funny. So I wanted to like breathe out, like you're standing up, like when you catch a lift, you're like standing up a lift, you're like bracing and pushing, down into the floor, trying to stand up a, squat, and you're breathing out. Right. Well, when you push out your baby, you have to hold your breath. You don't breathe out. And I kept doing it. And they're like, no, hold it. Like I fucked it up like so many times. And I was like, damn it. And it's because I'm so used to like pushing and breathing out. So, yeah, there's just different stuff going on with the core when it comes to like rehabbing and childbirth.
So as you were, working your way from like more of the birth fit exercises, like back towards traditional training, were there certain like landmarks or certain points where you're like, you know what? Yeah, that felt pretty good. This is kind of giving me like the scratch the itch of like, hey, maybe I will train again at a little bit higher. Like, level, or maybe I do potentially
Maybe I
want
will
to go
come in
back.
30th in the world in the Open by accident.
Yeah, like
Answer Sherp's question.
were there things that happened over the last 11 plus months that like stick out in your mind of like, yeah, when I was able to do this, that kind of made me feel like maybe I could do that, or this could do that. And I think it's kind of a nice, like almost like roadmap for someone to understand that like we're constantly growing, and then like maybe setting ourselves back and then growing again. And there are certain things that kind of motivate us to want to be better. And I'd feel like for maybe you and my wife's experience is like certain activities started to come back, and it's like, oh, maybe I can go do this or go do that. So I don't know if you had any like stories from your experience that were like, oh, maybe I can get back into this fitness stuff.
Yeah. So like I said, so most of my workouts were done at home for several reasons, mostly. So it was like obviously pandemic time, right? So luckily we have our garage. So I did the majority of my return to fitness in our garage, which is pretty well equipped in the way of like machines and weights. We just have low ceilings. So obviously gymnastics are limited, but, so yeah, I mean, I started out doing like, EMOMs and, little lower intensity types of stuff. But then it was like getting on the assault bike, like, being able to push on machines was kind of like the first place that I could start to be able to like try and do that. And then, yeah, like I obviously modified workouts for a while. But once I got able to like add intensity, it was just one of those things where like, I like pushing myself just because it feels good. Like, I don't know what this disease is, but all of us CrossFitters have it where it's like, we just like want to do it for no other reason than like, it's just what I want to do. And I don't know. So, and well, the one thing that it's like the little caveat that I always have, or just like my little out, is always like especially, depending on the day, depending on what's been going on, how much energy I have to give to fitness. Like it's some days, I'm just going to move, or am I going to go in there and, okay, I'll start with like an easy EMOM, or is it, I'm going to push hard. I can kind of like get in there and feel how it's going to be, or I already know going in, I'm like, I'll just tell Roy, like, I'm just going to do it like a flush, or I'm just going to do something easy. But sometimes you feel better and you decide to go a little harder. But I would kind of just go off of how I felt that day. And if I felt like going there, then I would go there. And in the back of my mind, it's just like, you don't have to do this. Like, you don't have to do it, Kenzie. So like, if you're not feeling it, then fucking just don't. And so I always gave myself like that grace, because I literally don't have to be out here at all. Like, there's no deadlines. There's no competition. There's nothing attached to this situation. So it was all just based on like what I wanted to do. So I kind of gave myself that out and that like freedom to kind of train based on that, and kind of, because I feel like I'm aware of my body. Like I know when to, like, I feel like it's okay to push this. I feel like it's okay to add this movement back in. I feel like it's okay to add some weight on this. I didn't need like my PT to clear me for everything. Like, I feel like I was a pretty good judge, and I wasn't trying to push it. I wasn't trying to be that person that's like already back to PR weight 4 months postpartum. And like, I see that shit on social media, and it makes me want to just like rip my eyeballs out and just scream that, why would you do something like, there's no reason to do that.
Yeah, what's cool what you just said too is it was something that's like inside of your body. Like, you don't have to do training. It's something we talk about with a lot of our like remote coaching athletes when they have like a rough day at the gym. They're like, I have to get X, Y, and Z done. And then some days, like, it's totally fine to give yourself permission to have an easy day, or to go in and be like, you know what, I'll start like a nice casual EMOM, and if it turns into intensity, great, because we know that our intensity and our effort can undulate from, hey, I'm really fired up and I want to go get after this. Like, post right after the Open, you're like, I didn't get this movement, I want to go get it. And then there are some days you're like, I just slept 4 hours. Like, I'll just start on the assault bike and see if I can get like 5 calories in this minute. And then I'll try to see if I can get 8 next minute. And if it feels good, maybe I'll try for 10 or 12. Like, and you kind of work your way into like we joke, like a lather as you get up and get going. So, I think that's a really important lesson to tell people that, like, even someone of your caliber who finished third in the world and has been to the CrossFit Games a couple of times, like, hey, some days you have it and some days you don't. And you need to be okay with giving yourself permission to be like, hey, at least I got in there and moved around a bit.
Well, and somebody just asked me yesterday, at the gym, she's trains with one of my friends there, and she's kind of, I don't say newer, but she's kind of like just getting into more CrossFit type stuff. And she was like, do you ever get mad? And do you ever get mad like when you can't do something in training? And I was just like, I had to think about it for a second. And I said, no. I'm just like, no, because I mean, like, yeah, it's frustrating, but I also know like literally tomorrow it could be there. Like one day you might have it and the next day you don't, because look at your day. Like what went on that day? How's your recovery? What's going on in your life? Like just because you feel a certain way one day, it doesn't mean that it's going to like fuck up your training. If you like have one day where things are off or you don't want to train hard, or, you know, like listening to your body and understanding like your body is very dynamic and it's all fluid. It's not just like, it's either there or it's not. Like wake up tomorrow and try again and see, or like give yourself a few days off and come back and see, or, you know, like it's not like permanent. Like one day is not permanent. So yeah, I think that's like something I learned through experience and like understanding the body and like the ups and downs of training. But yeah, the same thing with that. It's just like, if you feel if like, listen to your body. I mean, we say it all the time, but like truly, I was very much listening to my body, my whole postpartum journey. It was never like a forced thing where it's like, I have to train. And actually like, I wanted to train. Like I looked forward to it most days because I stayed home. I mean, I stayed home with Race full time. So it was like, I wanted to, some days I wanted to take a nap and sometimes I did take a nap instead. But honestly, like once Roy got home, I'd be like, it's my turn to like do something. So, well, and it was at that point that I did start going back to the gym. And I will say, I think the whole like thought of competing, which it's still not like, it's not like that is my like focus and my goal or like my intent necessarily, but I just started doing affiliate class. And I actually like, I had never been in like SugarWOD. I had never like participated really in my affiliate before, which sounds really bad. Because ever since I've been here, I've been training for the CrossFit Games. So I like actually got into SugarWOD and would like post my scores and like look at other scores. And I like found myself like wanting to like compete with people. I'd like see the score of the day and I'd be like, oh, I'm gonna fucking destroy that. Like, or
Fuck them up.
yeah, like I started competing again within class and within my gym. And, you know, then it was like with myself, obviously, and like the ego started to like kind of peek back out where like, I'd be like, normally, like, you know, postpartum Kenzie would have been like, I'm going to fucking break these as many times as I want. I don't care. I'm dying today and that's fine. But I'd be like, fucking hold on to this. Like in my mind, like, you know, I wanted to like push myself sometimes again. So I found like that sort of thing coming back. And then again, competing within class. And yeah, those were kind of like the checkpoints, I think, which I was like, okay, like that's still there. Okay.
Did that competitive spirit kind of come out of you as a result of going back into class, or is that before, like still when you were working out at home in the garage, or like when you were like watching maybe Roy and friends like work out and you're like, fuck, that looks really fun, I want to go do that, but like maybe you're not there yet? Did that happen still at home, or did that start to that itch come back when you started being around people and you're like seeing what other people are doing? And like what you're speaking, you know, to is something that I found really exciting about CrossFit early on, is like, wait, every day we get to come back to this place and like race each other. This is kind of fun. Like, I like that there's some sort of competitive outlet here. So I don't know if that's how it was for you, or it did take a little while in class to be like, all right, I guess I do want to compete again.
It was partly like seeing myself progress back and being like, seeing that I can do or like in my mind, I'd be like, oh, I'm going to be that's going to fucking destroy me. Or like, I'm not going to be able to like, I put these limits on myself thinking like physically I wasn't there yet. And then I would like, it'd be okay. And I'd be like, well, like, so I like surprise myself. So I think the garage was more so just my safe little place to train and give myself the grace. And like, it was different when I was training, you know, by myself and comparing scores with all of our training friends. But I wasn't even doing that because I was modifying everything so much. So there I was just like doing it to do it and doing it for myself. But when I got in and around other people, it was really making me like more competitive, which I will always say, and I have always said that I'm not very competitive in like other areas. It's only in CrossFit. And I don't know why. It's because I think I feel very like territorial of this sport, because I feel very much like it's like something that's just like a part of me. And it's like, I don't know. This is what I feel like I'm supposed to do. And I feel very, very purposeful in this space. So I get way more competitive when it comes to CrossFit than like board games or freaking intramural softball. Like I didn't give a fuck about those things. Like I play stuff for fun, and like Roy does not want to lose anything. I'm not like that. I don't care. I'm like, fucking, you can have this one. I don't care. But when it comes to like CrossFitting, I'm like, I'm not gonna let this happen. So
we're gonna,
I don't know.
We're gonna do this. We're gonna do this part of the episode like a Tarantino movie, which I know you've never seen any of those.
What's that?
We're gonna talk about the ending first. So you are going to be competing at the Atlas Games online semifinal, mid-June.
Yeah,
that is week 4 for anyone wondering what week it is. It still says it's not on the games website, so nice job. But in real life, it is week 4. So now that we know the ending, you did really, really well in the open. Did that happen by accident? And I obviously don't mean your actual performance, but just the idea of, I'm not going to be competitive anymore. Wait a minute, this is kind of fun in class. Now the open is here. Like, what did you expect to happen in the open?
Dude, I didn't expect anything to come of the open. I thought I was just going to do it and like see how sad my scores were and see everybody that I used to be competitive with completely way up on the leaderboard and me really far down. And honestly, like, I don't know why I wanted to do it like for myself to like see, just to see. Like, I don't know why people want to do that when they expect something bad to happen, but I did that. So I had zero expectation, like literally none, because the quarter, I didn't even understand like what a quarterfinal, when that was, how that was, the process. Like, I was just like, I'm going to do the open and that's going to be the end of that. So
I was like customer support by accident for CrossFit HQ. The amount of people that I have talked through the season on a phone call is crazy.
Nice. Yeah, I didn't know. I had no idea what was going on with the concept of the CrossFit season. So I just did it just to see. So much so that literally the first workout, I was at the gym and I had a race with me, and it was like, week 1, and the people I work out with in the middle of the day, competitors, they take it, seriously. And they're like doing their warm-ups and like, doing all the stuff. And I'm in there, like, did a little bit of warm up. And I'm like, when are you guys going to do this? Cause like, I gotta go, we gotta get home soon. I'm just going to go now. And like, no, I don't think anybody else, maybe like one other person, everybody else was like still warming up. And I was like, I just got to get this done. And so I really probably wasn't as warm as I should have been. And I was just like, I just got to do this and I got to leave. So it was very like, not like built up to this whole like event. So I did not take it super seriously.
I think that's a good theme though for what happened afterwards, right? Isn't it? That you were able,
that's why
that rucksack full of expectations wasn't on your back.
Yeah. So, and I know I've always historically done better that way. So yeah, after that week, and then I was just like, well, that was a weird week because, it was like wall walks and no one ever does those. And such a throw out move. Like, this is going to be, random people are going to do well at this because it's not like a real CrossFit skill or whatever people say. So I'm like, I got lucky. We'll see what happens next week. And then, oh yeah, the retest. And I was like, God, that was fucking awful back then. So this is going to be bad again. Like, this is going to be so bad. And then somehow I did better than my first time 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, whatever that was.
100 years ago.
And that was definitely a shock. And so that more or less was like, I was more proud of that than anything, just because I'm like, I did not expect that to happen. So, and then I'm just like, something's going to come up that's just like going to be horrible, because like people have been training like, high level gymnastics for a year that I've been unable to do them. And so I was just waiting for like the kiss of death with something to show up. And then the last week I'm like, fuck, all these bar muscle ups. And I was just like, whatever, I'm just gonna like do whatever I can do. And they weren't as bad as I thought they were going to be. And I somehow was able to lift a decent amount of weight, which I definitely peed when I did, but it was a lot of weight for Kenzie. So yeah, like somehow all the pieces came together.
What's that like at your gym when you're, you just putting the baby down for like in the stroller or whatever, and you just walk over and beat everybody in the gym, and then you go back to being a mom 5 minutes later? Like, what? I can't even like wrap my mind around like being that level of performer, but also being like, yeah, I just like was feeding him 2 minutes ago, and I have like 7 minutes. Well, he's going to let me do this, and then I'm going to go back to that. I don't know if that's creates a strange dynamic or what that's like, because you literally have to put, the mom stuff on pause for the shortest amount of time you possibly can to get right back to being a mom again. So, like Drew said, I think it's probably allowing you to just be a little bit more free and not stress out about it, because you're not thinking about it forever and ever. But I don't know, it's just a funny thing to think about, someone like literally putting a baby into a stroller, then 1 minute later beating everybody in the entire gym.
Yeah. I mean, and in some ways I'm like I kind of feel like a dick, but I'm also just like, I don't know. Like, I just do it. Like, I'm not like trying to do it. I just do it, which maybe even makes it worse. But like,
there's another lesson in there. That's like, like the themes that are coming to mind are obviously the thing of expectations. But that can come from like so many different angles. And a lot of it is made up in our heads. Like, oh, this person expects me to do this, and this person expects me to do that, and everyone online thinks I'm going to do this. And in reality, that may or may not even be the case. The thing that popped into my head when you said that is, I don't remember what week it was, but you sent me a text that said something like, I think I'm still fit, either during the open or after the open. And I wrote back, we already knew that, but I'm glad you know that now as well.
Yeah, you did.
And then there's also the other theme here, which we will always milk this for what it's worth. It's another nod to aerobic functioning is king. You have built this base over a very long period of time through, even prior to CrossFit, where, when Kenzie comes to train here, she'll win a workout and then be upset about whether maybe this set should have been unbroken or this thing should have looked faster. And she wins by a considerable amount in a lot of cases, and it looks the exact same speed the entire time. And I mean, you made a career off of like not going out too hot or not going out super slow and trying to catch up. You just are aware of what speed the workout is going to be. And while a lot of that is experience and knowledge, the other side of it is you have the energy systems to be able to do that. If someone is all like Fran and the salt bike sprints and all that stuff, if someone is all that, they're never going to be able to check that box off.
Yeah, it definitely, and I thought it would go away. But I guess it just shows that, 9 months versus, however many years old I am, how long I've been doing a sport that requires you to have aerobic base. I guess that definitely comes into play. 9 months doesn't take away all of that. Good to know. But yeah, it surprised me for sure. And it doesn't necessarily feel as good as it probably once did. But of course, pushing hard, and no matter how fast you're actually going, if you're going hard, it fucking hurts in CrossFit, no matter how fit you are. So that's going to be the case regardless. But so especially something like that bar muscle up workout, the 21.34, I knew like watching everybody do it, like starting with sets of like 10 and 15 bar muscle ups. Of course, you know how I'm just like, okay, like that's not in the cards for me, even on my fittest times. So I was just like, I'm just going to do what I can do. Like, this is just how I've done everything for the past however many months postpartum. I'm just like, I'm just going to go off how I feel. And I'm just going to drop down before I blow up. And so I was doing, I think the biggest that I did was like 6, you know, and then I was reduced to 3s and 2s and 1s. And I failed one at one point, but I just tried really hard to just jump down, jump back up. And that's how, yeah, like I said, that's how I've kind of always done stuff. And do I feel like in my mind, it's like, well, fucking Sam Briggs does 15 or some shit unbroken. If I'm trying to be Sam Briggs or stand next to her on the CrossFit Games competition floor, then I need to be able to do 15 unbroken. And so that was always like the record playing in my mind, was just like, you want to be like these girls, you got to be able to do how they do. And turns out there's more than one way to do things, I guess. So,
well, and if there is one way, it's your way. It's not the other. What was the couplet at regionals not that long ago with the ring muscle ups? Opened with a big set.
It's 21:15.9 with, I think, heavy dumbbell snatch.
Does that sound
regionals?
Right?
Yes.
Overhead squat, dumbbell overhead squat. And,
yeah, that's what it was.
Yeah, 21:59. Yeah.
Everyone who came out big lost. And by lost, I mean literally came in last place. They battled with each other for last place. And, you know, you're talking about high rep gymnastics. And we see so many people bite off more than they can chew because of adrenaline, because it is exciting, because they could go there. And, you know, it's just like anything else. Yes, you can go out and sprint the first 400 of your mile and you'll slow way down and lose to the person that jogs past you. So like we have those lessons built in to all of these steady state pieces, even all the way down to, you know, a 500-meter row, but people don't use them. It's like, oh, I'm excited. I love bar muscle ups. Well, your fitness hates your set of 15.
I think it's cool what you said, Kenzie. You know, you get fixated on doing what other girls do. I want to be able to do the same amount of sets, but like at the end of the day, the only thing that's measured in the test is your time at the end. So if you know yourself and you've built that crazy, you know, the base that you have, you can get away with breaking things up a ton as long as you are disciplined to make sure that those rests, because you are taking more of them, are very, very short. And I do think there are going to be athletes who can relate to the fact that they've never done a set of 7 ring muscle ups in a row, but they can pop back up there and do 3 for the rest of their life. Do 3. So
that's the one thing is some people don't trust themselves to rest. They'll stand there longer. And I have definitely not as good as I used to be with like making myself get back on the bar. Like if I'm hurting, I allow myself to hurt now a little bit more because I'm like, I've got a million excuses why this is okay right now. So sometimes I let myself do that. But also I will say during that open workout, I had like anxiety because I like dropped down and like in my mind, I wanted to drop back up or jump back up, but like physically, like I knew I wasn't ready yet. So it was like killing me to rest because it was longer than I needed to, or longer than I wanted to. And like Roy was like, come on, go. And I was like, I can't. like I knew it. Like I was literally on the verge of like vomiting from doing like just all this like core, toes to the bar. And so physically I felt like throwing up. And then on top of that, I was like almost failing my bar muscle ups. And so I wanted to, because seeing the clock tick gives me so much anxiety, but I was like, I just can't. So, I have the opposite problem, honestly, like where people want more rest. I'm like, I can't rest. Like I gotta go. So yeah, if you can watch the clock, then small sets all the way.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So when you were going into quarterfinals, you sort of knew that if there's going to be this amount of tests, there's probably going to be some things that I haven't even really practiced very much yet. I'm not 100% comfortable with, but if you do the math on 30th in the world to trying to be 100 top 120 in America, in North America, it was kind of easy to be like, Kenzie, just so you know, mathematically, you would have to try not to qualify. You would have to try not to.
I didn't know that.
I know you typically try not to qualify with your camera at least 3 or 4 times a year, but in terms of your actual exercising, there's just, it wasn't going to be feasible for you to drop down the leaderboard sort of no matter what. Did you fully accept that going into quarterfinals? I don't want to ask you if you believe me, because that's not necessarily how that works, but like,
I think maybe a little bit, like, so when you like explain that to me, and Roy understands it all. Like, I just didn't understand. Like I said, this is a whole new like step that we've never had before. So understanding it I wasn't quite there. But once I like understood that a little bit, I was kind of like, yeah, I'm not gonna like stress over these scores really. Like I wasn't doing it in the open. Like I was never going to redo a workout. Let me put it that way. This whole season, I was never going to be like, I need to redo that. I need a better score. Everything I was doing was just to do it and just to put it up there, because I don't have the time and the energy to sit here and stew over if I can shave some seconds off, or if I can speed up that transition, or blah, blah, blah. So everything was just going to be done to be done. I did not expect, so the quarterfinal workouts, I like some of those things. I think a lot of people can say, like, no one expected a fucking million GHDs or just a GHD in general. Like, there were definitely some movements that I was surprised to see. I guess that was probably really the only one. I mean, rope climbs, like seeing that come up on online stuff, like we haven't seen that before. So I was a little bit surprised at those. And so initially, like before knowing the workouts, I just expected more like CrossFit-y, like more like normal online qualifier CrossFit Games style workouts, right? So I wasn't super worried about any of the events until they announced that. And then I was like, shit. Well, that's a horrible combination for anybody, but let me tell you, bad one for Kenzie, a real bad one for mommy Kenzie. So yeah, I still felt like maybe okay, but I was just like, I'm going to be really embarrassed about how this one turns out. That's just ego though.
All right. So now we move on to, you are training right now. And I mean, it's fair to say you are training for the Atlas Games, but you're continuing on the path of, I am training because I like to train and I make a priority in my life. And like, you're not going out of your way to, you know, pay extra money for nannies and babysitters that you can get a second session in, or third session, or go do this or go do that. And one more time, just a nod. You're able to do that because of your aerobic functioning. The one thing that I didn't want to do in this episode is have you explain your training schedule and have a normal human being think that they could do that and do what you're doing. But it is a nod to, if you get yourself to a place where you do have a robust engine and energy systems, you can have periods of time where you are training 60, 90 minutes a day. That part is very real. But again, there's a journey that you went on first. I think that is a stepping stone to what you're doing now. So just for anyone listening, do your aerobic work, and then you might have a year where you can train like Kenzie and still go to semifinals.
Which, I mean, I'm still, I don't say in disbelief. I mean, I trust you when you say you don't need volume. I mean, you told me that the other day. I'm just like, okay. I mean, like, I can't do volume. And you're like, good, you don't really need it. And I'm like, okay, well, if you say it though, but I'm just like, I know I can't give that. So whatever I can give, it's like what I've said all year. That's when people ask me, are you doing the open? Are you doing this? Are you trying to compete again? I say, I'm just going to do what I can with what I got, and wherever that takes me. Like, that's still where I'm at is, you know, I've got this amount of time and I've got access to this, this, and this. Some days I don't have access to that and that. So we do what we can with what we got and see where it is. That's still where I'm at. And I think trying to change that, mentality, like I said the other day, when we were talking, Drew, I'm like, I'm not trying to make this a thing. Like, I'm not trying to make it into like, Kenzie's trying to do this, or we're not like my goal. like cool, would it, like to make the games, would that be cool? Yes. Is it technically like my goal in a sense? Yes. Is it like I wake up every day and think about it and I devote all of my decisions to this goal? No. So to me, that's two very different things. Like when it is your sole focus, which I think is what it takes to make the CrossFit Games these days. So that's why I don't expect to make it, because I know people live like that and they probably have the edge on me because of that. But I'm always going to try my best. And when I train, I'm going to train hard. So that without expectation and knowing that for me, this is the biggest difference is like, there's nothing attached. There's no outcome attached or expectation attached to my training.
Oh, no.
I know that noise. I was just going to say the message that the sound, what I'm hearing from you on that is that like, it's more important to be in love with in just the day to day of what you're doing than the outcome of where you end up. If you truly want to be happy with your training, I think there are too many athletes who are focused on, if I don't qualify for this semifinal or I don't finish first at this competition or that, the other, like what, I wasted all my life. Like, what did I just do all that for? And what I'm hearing from you is that you genuinely enjoy going in, seeing what your body can do. And if you end up at a space where you can qualify for a semifinal or get a games ticket, like, cool, that's great. But like, it doesn't, it's not the outcome doesn't dictate why I do what I do. It's because I enjoy the process.
Yes. And it's not, and I'm not putting pressure, like, oh God, I have to get this last piece in, or like, you know, I'm in the middle of, or like I was literally doing sprints on the assault bike the other day, or I was doing something and I was on the assault bike and Roy came out and was like, hey, he's blah, blah, blah. What do I do? And I like had to like get off and like
That's
do something.
voice
like
for me too. That's the exact same voice Noelle uses when she talks about me to other people.
Kind of like
that thing's making noise. Help.
Sometimes that was literally what it is. Like, oh, do I give him more bottle? What do I do? So I had to like get off and like deal with that. And then I like came back to the middle, literally in the middle of my training piece. Like, again, it's like being a mom, like this is your instinct. You take care of your baby. Nothing else matters. But I was also in the middle of my training piece. Like if I was training to truly make the CrossFit Games, I'd be like, I guess like I'm in the middle of fucking something right now. But I'm also, I'm in this place now where I'm like, it's fine if I need to take a second, I'll come right back to it and get back into it. Like doing what I can, you know? So I don't think that, you know, the outcome of achieving my goal or not achieving my goal is hinging on like this training piece or this training day. Like I said, if I need to slow down in a workout, oh my gosh, freaking, what did we do the other day? Ring muscle ups and sandbag. I was dying. I was literally dying and I didn't want to pick up the sandbag. So I just sat there hunched over for a second and I was just like, oh my God, this really fucking sucks. I'm really not good at this anymore. And I felt sorry for myself and then I just kept going. So like, I find myself being kind of a little bitch from more often, but I also give myself that because I'm like, I have way more on my plate than I ever did. So it doesn't stop me from doing it. It just makes me have a minute every once in a while.
Well, we talk on the podcast pretty regularly about like, yes, cliches can be cliche, but they're said so often because they're real. And we are again talking about life pushing you into the journey versus the destination, because living your life with the destination in mind all the time, it's the only thing you're looking for. You're essentially experiencing nothing in between these moments. And what happens in between those moments is what should make moments like that special. And you are very much living day to day in the moment. You're going out and doing your training because it's important to you. And, you know, there's a competitor aspect to that. There's a health aspect to that. There's probably like a setting an example aspect to that. But you are living that, you know, cliche, which it's not easy to actually like go into those things and have them happen. It's easy to talk about. It's so easy to say like, no, you got to live in the moment. You got to trust the process. You got to love the process, and then everything will turn out okay. It's so easy to say that. But you're actually living that. And I think that's like, again, another important lesson that's baked into this.
Yeah. And because I listened to you guys, your podcast with Paige the other day. And yeah, exactly. It's like, you know, in life we have these big moments, and I feel like everybody's always looking forward to like the big moments or the big like thing, like, I don't know, just like anything that's like exciting. But like literally your life is made up of day to day to day, like the mundane day to day to day. So if you don't like live in the moment or love what you do, or, you know, you live so much more of your life with just like a normal day to day, that it's like, if you're just trying to gloss over that and get to like the next exciting thing or the next big thing or the next whatever, it's like, you're just like, I don't say you're wasting your life, but like, you're not making the most of it. That's for sure. So yeah, you have to take just one day at a time and freaking maximize it.
So we're gonna let you go. Talk to the humans.
My nanny's here. It's okay.
To the humans and animals. Oh, okay. But yeah. I did want to, before we end, I saw you have a fancy new website. And I wanted to ask if someone is listening to this and, you know, when you do your nutrition coaching, I know you do a lot of stuff where you're helping people with various aspects of their life that are associated to training. How does someone contact you about that? Like that sort of thing?
Yeah. So that's why I put it out there. It's just like a kind of just like a home base for Kenzie and all the stuff that she does, because I kind of have my hand in a few things at this point. So yeah, it's just my MeKenzieRiley.com, and it's got a contact form. So yeah, whether it's nutrition or fitness or whatever, I'm just looking to be a resource for anybody that wants direction in anything that I've dealt with, from competing to just being healthier to, you know, postpartum or pregnancy or any of that. I've had quite a few experiences in life in a variety of areas. So I just always want to be able to use that for something. So
I actually do have one more question, and it relates to that. I wrote it down earlier in the podcast and then didn't ask it. It seems like you are taking your own advice. That's one of the hardest things in life to do. It's so easy to tell other people what to do, and then, you know, life brings you the same situation and you have, you know, your own feelings that are actually existing in yourself. And it's hard to do that. So, you know, you talked about, you've had a lot of experiences, you wear a lot of hats. When it comes to your education, to your coaching, to your athletic experience, all these different things. Did you feel like over the last year, it was easier to take your own advice than like previous times in life? Cause it sounds like you did a pretty good job.
I don't know. I mean, it's always tough when you're your own patient or client or whatever, you know? So I think,
true.
Yeah, I don't know. It's also just like, just giving yourself a little bit of grace. I think it's been the biggest thing for me, is just like cutting myself some slack. And yeah, I don't know. I mean, I also just really trust that like life has a way of working itself out. And there's like, you know, a bigger plan and all of that. So I have just everything that has ever happened along my journey, even up to like, you know, wanting to be a CrossFit Games athlete, qualifying and training in this way. And just like the journey that I've had overall in my life and in anything that I've like set out to do, I've really just organically let it manifest. Sorry, my phone's dying. Organically kind of let itself just like manifest itself by just like remaining open. And I think just like the energy that the high frequency, like just having like a high energy and attracting things that have the same energy as you, I believe is super real. So I don't know. I think that if you just kind of stay kind of in that place, things will just like the synergy just kind of happens. So yeah, it's not like I'm like trying to like force myself to be a certain way. I'm just kind of trying to take it as it comes and just be open.
The beginning of your answer, I think, is insanely important, and the other side of the coin. So it is hard to take your own advice. But then also people cut their peers slack in moments. You know that you have empathy for other people, and you see them going through things, and you do cut them slack, and then you don't cut yourself slack in very similar situations. You really beat yourself down, because, you know, you can sort of see the totality of what someone else is going through, and you understand why it's okay for them to be going through that. And then on yourself, you can be so hard on yourself. So again, while taking your own advice is challenging. Also, cutting yourself some slack, which you would do for other people, I think is a like huge part of this equation.
Yeah, you gotta, yeah. I mean, it's good to be tough on yourself and to hold high standards, but also like you're a human and quality of life is important. So
yeah, to me, that's an extra layer of stress that, you know, when you're already having so many things you have to juggle day to day, why would you want to put additional stress on your body when you can allow yourself to have a day like that?
And I think there's a lot of glorification of that in this world, is like, you know, don't sleep, keep hustling, you know, excuses are garbage, and just,
insert
you know,
fart noise.
Yeah. Right.
I'm with that in the keyboard over there.
Exactly. So I think that, you know, or, you know, think we're lazy, or we think that we're slacking if we give ourselves, you know, room, like any sort of room to like, you know, have a minute if we need a minute, you know? So I think that that's just become part of the culture, is that busy is important and busy is normal. And if you're not busy, then you're being, you know, being not productive is not being valuable and all that stuff. That's a whole other conversation. But yeah, I think that sometimes you just need to give yourself a pass. And again, one day is not forever. So if you need a day, take a day and like get back to whatever it is that you're trying to do. But yeah, life is fluid, man.
All right, Kenzie. June 18th, Atlas Games. People can watch it somewhere. I don't know where. I don't know how it works. I don't know. Yeah, we don't know a whole lot about it, but we know that the CrossFit Games will tell you where you can watch Kenzie. Thank you for joining us. I think it's been quite a year for you, and we appreciate the example that you set for other people and joining us to actually take the time to talk about your story so other people can learn from it and associate with it and all that good stuff. So thank you very much.
Yeah, I'm happy to be the resident mother now. So come to me if you want any more talk about babies and pregnancy and postpartum bodies and fitness. I'm here.
Boom.
Thanks for your time, Kenzie.
All right, talk to you guys soon.
Ladies and gentlemen. Sorry, Kenzie. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Misfit Podcast, and thank you to our show sponsors, properfuel.co. Use the code word Misfit to save on your very first order of Proper Recovery. PureSpectrumCBD.com. Use the code word Misfit to save on everything. I said miss it, I think it's Misfit, MISFIT. SharpenTheAxeCo.com. Use the code word Keala, KEALA. You save 10%. We say, oh my goodness, we send the same 10% to the Keala Foundation. Check out their website to see why you would want to donate some money to them. And last but not least, we're brought to you by ourselves, MisfitAthletics.com, TeamMisfit.com, SugarWOD Marketplace. You could try it all 2 weeks for free in any of those spots. I should probably stop talking now. I am at Misfit Coach on Instagram. Slide into those DMs and let me know what you thought of the episode and who you would like us to have on next. We will see you next week.